Hi, I'm a tutor for mathsandenglish.net, and today we're looking at prime numbers and prime factorisation. So before we look at factorisation, we need to look at what is a prime number. So a prime number is any number which only has two factors, 1 and itself. So it can't be divided by any other numbers to get an integer. For example, 7 is a prime number. 1 times 7 is the only multiplication you can do that will give you the answer of 7 if you're only using integers. If you divide 7 by any other integer, you will not get a whole number. 8 is not a prime number. Yes, it does have the factors 1 and 8, but the definition for a prime number is to only have those factors. So you could get 8 by multiplying 2 by 4. So those are 2 more factors, and that means that it can't be a prime number. Next, we can look at prime factorisation. So that might not be a term that you've heard before, but what it means is breaking a number down into a product of only prime numbers. So I don't just mean one number times one number, it'll be all of the prime numbers that you can multiply together to get that answer. And there's a pretty straightforward method of doing this. So in our example, we have 52 as our starting number, and let's say we want to break down 52 into being a product of prime numbers. So what we want to do is we want to start basically dividing it, breaking it up into chunks. So we start by thinking of what's a multiplication that we can do to get 52. The easiest way of thinking about it to begin with is if something is an even number, the first thing you want to do is divide it by 2. So you'll draw 2 lines, one that leads to a 2, and one that leads to half of 52, which would be 26. Now, we know 2 is a prime number. You can only divide 2 by 2 or by 1 to get an integer. It has no other factors. So we don't need to do anything with this side. 26 is not a prime number. You can divide it by 2 and get 13, and that means it has more factors than just 1 in itself. So that's what we're going to write down. Same as before, you do 2 lines from it. 2 times 13. So we established before that 2 is a prime number, so we don't need to do anything to that one. And 13 is also a prime number, so we also can't break that down any further in this process. If you could, you would keep doing the same thing with the 2 lines and dividing it by a certain number, but in this case, that's as far as we need to go. So we know that 52 is 2 times 2 times 13. This can also be written as 52 equals 2 times 13, like I've written down here. So once you've done the tree, you would write it down like this. So that's called product notation. Basically, that's what you would give if you got asked to write down x, any given number, as a product of its prime factors. That would be the best way to write it down for the answer, and it's the best way to kind of summarize what you've worked out in that tree. Now it's your turn. Try and break down 48 into being a product of its prime factors. Do the tree if it helps you, or you can try and do it in your head and come back for the answer. If you've come back to the video, the answer that you hopefully should have calculated will be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. If you want to check your answer if you're not quite sure, work out the other way. So start from the end. 2 times 3 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 2 is 48, and then you know you've worked out the correct way. Next lesson, we'll be introducing square numbers and cube numbers.